Yeah, can you? Is this wonderful? Thank you, AV team. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Joel. And thank you. Whether you are here in the sanctuary or watching online, welcome to Unitarian Universalist Church of the Desert. I'm Denise Janssen Eager. Joni Padduck and I are honored to be your worship associates today for this very important presentation on immigration by Beaman Jacinto. We also have our wonderful choir, led by Jim Tong, with us today, and Billy Williams and Les Bertrand are also with us from Share the Plate. We are blessed today. Before we begin, please take a moment to silence your cell phones or anything else that might make itself known during today's service. Thank you, Steve. Each Sunday at this time, we read the words of our land acknowledgement. Before we do, I would like to offer a perspective. We know that back when the first people moved about, there were no borders delineating lines belonging to any government. People were free to migrate wherever they wished, whenever they chose. So with today's presentation being about immigration justice, may our land acknowledgement take on a greater meaning of who we strive to be. Here in this space, we acknowledge that we are on the historic homelands of the various bands of Cahuilla people, and we honor the unique relationships that we hope emerges between our community and the indigenous people and their traditional territories. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Cahuilla people whose lands and water we benefit from today. In this congregation, where we strive to honor the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we welcome people of all races, religions, and cultures. We welcome you from wherever you are from and whoever you love. You are welcome no matter your sexual orientation, your gender identity, your age or your size, whether you're rich or you're poor. We welcome all those who will learn and grow with us as we commit together to embrace the rich and beautiful diversity of the world. Our goal here is to build a community centered in justice, in compassion, and in love. We're glad you were with us today, whether you were here in the sanctuary or at home watching online. Your presence is meaningful to us. We'd like now to take a moment to greet newcomers and visitors. If you're here for the first time or are a visitor and are comfortable doing so, please raise your hand and Megan Hamilton will come to you with the microphone. At this time, please just tell us your name and where you're from. We promise we'll get to know you better during our coffee service. Let's start on this side. Any new? Anyone? Okay. This section?
Master. I've been here many times.
Welcome, Kari. Anyone else? This section? We have someone in this row, Maggie, but you can come back.
Sorry. I knew it.
Sorry, Maggie.
I'm Nancy. I just moved here about 5 weeks ago from the San Fernando Valley.
Welcome, Nancy. Anyone else? And then we have several over in the other.
Hi, I'm Jim Cooch. I have a second home here from Tehachapi.
Welcome, Jim.
I am Bill Marshall. I live here with my husband, and this is my first time, and we were told about your church by our neighbors, Linda and Doug.
Welcome, Bill and your husband.
And
I'm Will Gavin and his other half, and it's good to be here, and I thank Linda and Doug for inviting us.
Welcome. And thank you, Linda and Doug.
Hi, we're Rob and Lisa from Connecticut, and we've been to this church a number of times and have enjoyed every visit. Thank you.
Welcome.
We're-
Maggie, Maggie, we have a few in the middle row.
We're Carol and Dave, and we're here from the Seattle area, and we've been here a few times.
Carol and Dave, welcome.
My name is Nancy Toller. This is my sister Susan, and we came to visit Randy and David, who we figured out on the way over here I've known for 60 years.
Wow. Welcome. What an anniversary. Thank you all for joining us. If you want to learn more about us or our programming, please contact the office at admin, ADMIN, at uucod.org, or visit our website, also uucod.org. You can also sign up at the welcome table after today's service, and I believe the welcome table is on the patio. And now, Joni will ring the Tibetan bowl, and together we will listen to Joel Baker play our music for centering to start our service. Today, Joni and I are honored to welcome back one of UUCOD's favorite speakers. She keeps us informed of the horrors that migrants face in our East Valley and beyond whenever she comes. And though we are sad to hear about that, we welcome Megan Beaman Jacinto. Megan is a renowned attorney, and her firm is a longstanding leader in worker and immigration justice. She takes pride in the compassionate, creative, and community-oriented approach to the immigration legal journey. Today, she will talk to us about the current situation in the East Valley and beyond. In Megan's words, immigration enforcement and policy have always been a source of instability and trauma for American families with immigrants. And 2025 has been an exacerbation. Expansion of enforcement, prolonged and indefinite family separation, unmarked and masked agents and vehicles, erosion of safe spaces, and more have transformed life for immigrant families. Healing requires not just medical attention, but activism and policy change. And for those of you who have questions, and we know you do, she will be doing a Q&A at the end of her presentation. What you may not know about Megan is that every year she generously donates to the Injustice East Valley Tour to our auction. This year, it will be the second item on the live auction, so mark your auction sheets. She will take the 3 highest bidders on a guided tour around the East Valley. She will show you hidden and not so hidden places that migrants live and try to survive every single day. These are places that most of us will never notice. Both Joni and I have taken the tour, and it is not to be missed. If you've taken it before, bid on it again. If you've never taken it before, bid on it. It is an auction item. It is an eye-opening experience. And you will come away moved with a new understanding of what our East Valley migrant neighbors have to endure every single day living in this new autocracy. But now, please rise as you are able and join me in singing our opening hymn, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place, led by our wonderful choir director, Jim Tom.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each other of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you all. Please join me in reading our unison aspiration, written by Tracy Bleakney, as Joni Padduck lights her chalice. A child journeys far from home, fearful and brave, in need of safe harbor. Guided by this chalice, may we seek to understand the causes of flight, like the comfort of a candle flickering in the window of darkness. Let this welcome this child into our home with warmth, nourishment, and love. Would we not want the same for our own child, lost and alone in a strange land? And now join me in reading the words on the screen as Billy William lights our BioPOC candles. We light these candles in solidarity with Black, Indigenous, and other people of color as we journey towards spiritual wholeness. May we, as a beloved community, work to dismantle racism and all forms of oppression. May we live out our values so that justice, dignity, and equity for all prevail. And now, please sit back and enjoy this musical treat from our UUCOD choir. And if you don't know, it's from the musical Newsies. Wow, what a UUCOD anthem. Thank you, choir and Jim Tong. And now, Chris Eager is here to introduce our Share the Plate recipient, Safe House of the Desert and Harrison House.
Good morning. As she said, my name is Chris Eager. Today we are continuing with our tradition of sharing the plate with Safe House of the Desert. This is a holiday gift drive for their young adults, ages 18 to 21, that live in Harrison House and Riverside Shelter. Your generous gifts today will be used to purchase Target e-gift cards that will be given to the residents to purchase their own presents, which are often much-needed items for their apartments. In addition, Safe House of the Desert operates life-saving shelters for youth between the ages of 11 to 17 who may have run away from home or are homeless or other youth in crisis. Without Safe House, these youth are vulnerable to human trafficking and/or living on the streets. Today we will hear from Billy William, counselor and case manager at Safe House and Harrison House, and Les Bertrand, one of their clients. Let's give them a warm welcome, and please be as generous as you are able.
Thank you, everyone. Every year you support us, and I can't express how appreciative we are and how significant it is to all of our clients during the holidays. My name is Billy William. I'm a counselor and a case manager. To give you a very brief idea, we assist transitional age youth 18 to 21 that are dealing with homelessness. We assist them in life skills, getting jobs, maintaining jobs, saving, teaching them the skills they need to move on to the next portion of their young lives. It is my great pleasure, where'd you go, to introduce Les, who is one of our esteemed graduates, and she's going to share a little bit of her story with everyone. Thank you, Les.
Hello, everyone, and good morning. I was a Safe House client Harrison House client. When I was 19 years old, I was on the street. I didn't have anywhere to go, and I was currently in Riverside, California, and they moved me out to the desert to go to Harrison House. Through Harrison House, I was able to get my driver's license. I was able to get my first car, and the current apartment that I'm living in, I was able to get with the help of the people at Harrison House. And with their help, I was able to actually end up getting a job there where I, in turn, help out youth that are also struggling with homelessness. Your gifts, your donations, even just your consideration of this program does help these young children and these young adults become better people and become more good people within the society. So we appreciate your help and your donations. Thank you. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Les, for sharing your story. Thank you, Billy, for always being here. Will the ushers please come forward to accept this morning's offering? If you are watching online, you should have received an email this morning with a link to the virtual collections basket. When we share the plate, your offering is split 50-50. Please give as generously as you are able to support both the good works of our beloved community and to provide e-gift cards to Harrison House residents and Riverside Shelter during this upcoming holiday season so they can purchase their much-needed items for their apartments and just being able to live. Thank you.
I know, right? It takes a village. walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We will stand together. We will stand together. We will stand together. We will stand together now. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we will overcome someday. Thank you, everyone.
And now it's my honor and pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Beaman Jacinto.
Thank you, thank you. Thanks everyone for having me back. My name, if you haven't heard it enough times, is Beaman Jacinto. Jacinto like the saint in the mountain, and Beaman like Roger and Margaret Beaman, who I always like to recognize and call out as my closest non-relative relatives, and who, by the way, have a granddaughter named Megan Beaman, but sadly it's not me. Well, I'm always so pleased to be here and to speak to the choir, so to speak, knowing that the information I share will be heard and carried forward for the good of our shared communities. This year has been exceptional in so many ways, most of them negative in my point of view, and undoubtedly so through the lens of our historically marginalized and most vulnerable communities. Certainly, living in a country like the United States, we couldn't call it unprecedented, unfortunately, so we'll call it exceptional. And exceptionally harmful it has been for immigrants and their families. In working as a board member for the California Institute for Rural Studies, we have begun planning a community-based study in rural communities like ours in order to understand the depth and nature of trauma that our immigrant communities and families are truly experiencing, as well as the longer-term implications. The information I share today is part of a preliminary planning framework for the gathering of local health data from our communities here in the Valley to inform change for the future. So a little bit different topic than usual. Usually I'm explaining the legal system to you and all the ways that the law protects immigrant communities and so forth. But with the law in such a state of flux this year and having less power than it has in the past, I wanted to focus on this topic instead. So a lot of times when we think about immigrant families in the United States, we may have a particular image or particular characteristics in mind. And I want to encourage everyone to broaden that image or broaden their way of thinking on that subject. Many immigrants have lived in the United States for longer than some of us, longer than I've been alive. And even if we were born here, that could be true. Many immigrants, especially those of Mexican and Latin American origin, are actually indigenous peoples whose ancestors, recent and ancient, occupied California and other parts of what is now the United States before it was claimed by any government. Many immigrants have lived nearly all of their lives in the United States, but are still considered outsiders by many. And when we think of the families of immigrants, many are not immigrants themselves at all. Many are citizens born in the United States, sometimes descendants of generations of US citizens and all kinds of ancestries. And one of them is standing in front of you right now. So before I continue, I wanted, and so that you don't leave me standing here all alone, I wanted to ask anyone who is here and is able, that identifies as an immigrant or part of an immigrant family, to please stand or raise your hand. Okay, now leave your hands up. Anyone who considers themselves a friend or a family of other immigrants, please raise your hand as well. My daughter. Leave your hands up if you can. Anyone who knows immigrants and immigrant families in your neighborhood, please raise your hand if you're not already. Anyone who knows immigrants or families of immigrants from your workplaces or country clubs. Anyone who knows activists, advocates, or providers of service to immigrants and immigrant communities. Who did I miss? And anyone who doesn't already have their hand up but knows someone with their hand up. Okay, so I think we hit everyone here. So the purpose of this exercise, which is plainly obvious, is just to help us visualize the depth of which we are all connected to immigrant communities, or immigrant adjacent, as they say in the studies sometimes, and how we are all interwoven into the immigrant community in the United States. And a bit of a tangent, but I have mentioned in past presentations that if you could find a high point or a highlight of some of the traumatic aspects of the current presidential administration, as well as the first phase of it, one of the highlights might be that it has drawn more attention to the immigrant community and the immigrant plight for justice. Whereas before 2016, as an immigrant advocate, I would say not a lot of people even those who mean well, had really thought about how immigration works or what the challenges and obstacles are. So that is one thing I'm grateful for today. Now, I'm no mental health professional, unlike Dr. Julia Bell and others of you, possibly. But here's a bit of what we know about the impacts of immigration enforcement and policy on families through experience, anecdotal evidence, past studies, and common sense. Immigration policy has become a source of chronic fear, instability, and trauma for millions across the spectrum of immigration statuses. Expanded, unregulated, and Wild West-style enforcement has transformed immigrant families' daily lives. For children and youth, these realities change their development, their family systems, and their long-term mental health. Immigrant families often face chronic stress related to legal instability and uncertainty, limited access to services, and now more than ever, fear of immigration enforcement. Parents living under the constant threat of detention or deportation of themselves or their co-parents or other family members frequently experience depression, anxiety, and trauma, which can disrupt their relationships with their children. Latina women are particularly vulnerable to the intersection of these stressors involving immigration status, trauma, and reproductive health, all of which can compromise maternal mental health and infant care in the bonding process. Forced family separations from immigration enforcement caused acute psychological harm to families. One national study, for example, showed elevated risks of suicidal ideation and alcohol abuse in children between 11 and 16. Sorry, my daughter is 11, so. Young children who lose a parent to enforcement. Experience sleep and appetite disturbances, emotional dysregulation, an interruption or even regression of their development. Didn't anticipate that.
It's just for you.
Thank you. Okay. Forced separation of child and parent, or even the threat of separation, contributes to toxic stress, enduring feelings of loss and abandonment, and long-term risks of psychiatric disorders. Children in mixed status families, like mine, live in chronic fear that a loved one could be deported. Inconsistency, ambiguity, and lack of transparency in immigration enforcement further intensifies fear and uncertainty in immigrant families and communities. Rights and protections that were previously guaranteed are now uncertain and arbitrarily applied, intensifying these effects. Similarly, spaces that were once considered safe, like clinics, schools, and churches, are no longer. Immigration policy is not only part of the legal system then, it's a determinant of public and personal health. Chronic anxiety has led many children and adults to avoid leaving home and withdraw from public life. The emotional trauma experienced by immigrant families is considered an adaptive response to a life shaped by surveillance and the threat of upheaval. I wish I could conclude this very heavy discussion with a solution or a promise, but the reality is that I cannot. As an immigrant family member, I'm experiencing the trauma firsthand. As a lawyer, I've witnessed the absolute erosion of legal protections that once formed the basis of my advice and action for clients. As an advocate, I've had to withdraw somewhat to deal with the constant state of emergency in my own family. Psychiatry professionals recommend family-based care, culturally grounded therapies, and community, school, and legal partnerships, all as strategies for addressing the trauma in our communities and families. Through the California Institute for Rural Studies, which I hope some of you will look up and hopefully support in the future, we're recommending a community-based study to reflect the lived realities of our rural and local communities on a more micro scale to guide further advocacy and policy change for the future. What I ask of you is to recognize trauma in immigrant communities as your own trauma and a consequence of systemic and political forces, not merely the private experiences of other people. Collaboration, advocacy, and culturally informed care can contribute to community healing, while also building and rebuilding new and better, humane policy for the future. So those are my comments for today. I didn't anticipate getting emotional, but I hope you understand that. And I think I've also mentioned many times in the past that the immigration system is not linear and it doesn't work for many people. And I didn't make that a personal declaration in the past, but now you know that it is. So even in the family of an immigration lawyer, we're not able to reach an endpoint or reach a positive solution for all of our family. So I wanted to share this topic today, a little different than usual. And I'll be happy to take any questions. Yes.
My son lives on the island. There was a raid. 44 4 a.m. when they broke the door down. My 11-year-old grandson was traumatized, and he kept saying, "Daddy, do something to stop this." And Derek said, "It's out of my control. I can't do anything." What do I say to my grandson, who knew these people, not personally, they were from Venezuela, but they had neighborly, hello, and they'd listen to their music, because when I last visited, they played music most of the night. Two of the Venezuelans had tattoos that were labeled gang tattoos. And my son said that's because they got tattoos to protect their families who were still in Venezuela. But what would you say to my grandson so he can sleep at night and not worry about doors breaking in?
Mhm. Well, that's a question that I think so many people have. And I certainly don't have, the definitive answer on it. But what I can say is that even though it's difficult, I think it's very important to be teaching children now about really what is happening, because, it's, as I said, a very exceptional year in that respect, but we do have a history in this country of excluding other types of people, quote unquote. And also we've seen these types of, autocratic or violent enforcement activities in other countries. And they're here now, right in front of us. And so it doesn't help the hurt and it doesn't help the fear. But my approach with my kids or with others in my circle is just to ensure that they know it's wrong, that those of us who care about it are fighting to stop it, and we hope it will stop one day. And that eventually those people who are participating in the kidnapping or enforcement actions, history will not be looking at them favorably, and there probably will be eventually consequences for their actions. I also try to highlight some of the really positive, for kids especially, some of the positive pushback that we see in places like Chicago, where the community is just blocking so-called agents from their kidnapping activities. And in other places, and in Chicago, actually, I think they're arresting some of these so-called agents that aren't identified and charging them with kidnapping. And those kind of things help myself and others just see, like, things can happen and things may happen. It's not solving the problem in the interim, but that's all I can say. I don't have the answer. Yeah. In the back?
Curious about the rural designation of your organization.
Yeah, so the organization on which I'm the board has existed since the 1980s. It was initially formed as a way to study communities from an academic research perspective where the universities didn't yet have sociology departments. So that's how it initially formed. And back then it was in California very focused on like farm workers, and that worked very closely with the United Farm Workers, Cesar Chavez Union, and so forth. That's kind of the origin. And then moving forward, it's really retained that nature of creating and providing data, or I should say like collecting and providing data to community advocacy organizations to utilize for their efforts to push social change forward. And I could say as an advocate, there are times where we know something is happening, but the decision makers in government will say, well, the data doesn't say that. And so it's very important sometimes to have that those studies done and available for the advocates to be able to prove their reality, essentially. Yes. Yeah, so the DACA program, she's asking if there's anything left of the DACA program. It still exists. DACA was the program that was created under President Obama to provide a type of protection for people who had arrived as children to the United States between certain ages. Very limited program, but it exists. What happened is that under the first presidency of Trump, he tried to end the program, and the Supreme Court didn't let him because so many people had come forward and depended on those rights. But he did end the new applications to the program. So for many years now, no one new could apply that hadn't previously applied. And there are people that kind of sat on it and didn't apply for different reasons. But the protection for those who have it still exists, and they continue renewing they renew their work permits every year, every 2 years. That's the status of it at this point. Yes, in the back.
Disrespecting people who have applied for asylum and have asylum proceedings coming up. They're strong-arming them out of their cars and taking them into detention anyway. So people who are in a legal process and have some kind of legal right to be in the United States, these goons are disrespecting that and yanking them out of cars, busting their car windows open. And this takes me back to when I used to work for the Police Misconduct Lawyer Referral Service in Los Angeles and had to tell people, you don't want to, but if they're busting the car open, you're going to have to let go because they're just going to accelerate and accelerate and accelerate and hurt you more. So it just seems like an extreme ramping up of what I used to see in Los Angeles with police misconduct. And it just gets me. We used to be able to say, you can go to court and the court will stop them. But even when we've been getting good rulings out of the federal district courts and the courts of appeal, the US Supreme Court keeps putting a stay on those good rulings. And that enables these ICE Border Patrol goons to continue doing things that would never have been acceptable under police misconduct jurisprudence.
Right.
Hi, my name is David. Thank you so much for being here today. And I just have a question. I'm just a regular guy, and I kind of just want to know, like how can I help and how can I get involved just in like everyday life with immigrants and immigrant families? Like, how can I support or be of help?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And I know every time that I'm here, that's a question that many people have. And I think everyone can answer it in their own way, depending on how they like to be involved. But, one of the big ways I think right now in this really disturbing time is to be vocal and open about everything that's happening. And, do away with the political correctness and ensure that people are understanding, like, this is not just immigration enforcement anymore. It's a reign of terror, and it's a white supremacist reaction to communities of color achieving, advancements in their rights over the years, including the presidency of President Obama. And one thing, like I mentioned, the groups that you see on TV in Chicago, but it's not only Chicago, it's all over the country, that regular people are coming out into the street when they see these kidnappings happen and stopping them in many occasions, which is almost shocking in a way, considering what immigration enforcement goons are doing. So, it just depends. There are other organizations in the Valley doing this immigrant justice work in different ways. Some is about getting food to everyone's tables. I know all of you contribute to Galilee and some of those organizations. Some of them, like the Inland Coalition for Immigrant Justice, which I support very strongly, has a really comprehensive network to go out when there's some kind of enforcement action or other violations happening, observe, take pictures, call authorities if appropriate, and so forth. And they're more like on the ground and organizing. And there's everyone in between, so pick an organization, donate to them, see if there are volunteer opportunities there. A lot of times there are. And otherwise, just, make sure that everyone around you is constantly alert and not letting it be just another thing. In the back?
Hi, my name is Rob, and we had lunch a long time ago.
Yeah.
I'm the self-appointed president and chief executive officer of your fan club. I'll have you know.
Thank you.
I talk about you a lot. So two things.
Co-presidency.
One, thank you for your work. It's extraordinary, and it must be exhausting. And I appreciate your remarks today incredibly. And I think your emotion really reflected the way a lot of us are feeling. Is the truth of it. The second thing is I want to put in a shameless plug for the Nursing Street Medicine program, which is providing a lot of health care to these people who are now fearful to go to regular medical care settings because of what's going on. But they will come to the Nursing Street Medicine program clinics and get really, really important medical care that they need. So if anybody's looking for more information about that, Denise Stevens or I can provide some information for you on it. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. And that is another great way to support. And I know the street medicine program was one of the first that came to me in early 2025 to say, like, what can we be doing directly with our customers and our clients, I guess they're called in that context, to protect them in case there are immigration enforcement actions or to prepare them for other experiences. So I really appreciate that organization, that group as well. Any other questions? Celia? Yeah. Yeah, and that's an interesting comment, Celia, because we laugh a little, but it actually is kind of like that at this point, where people are hiding out, people are not, leaving their homes, or they're sending out the people with citizenship instead of going out like they might in the past. It is kind of like in a different way, but it's kind of like that, and it's really terrifying. Yeah, in terms of a list of organizations, I think last time I presented, I created one for, I forget who was coordinating that. I sent it through email, so that could be maybe posted if it's not already. And otherwise, I'm a fan of Google, just some Googling, immigrant justice, Coachella, and you'll see which organizations are the ones speaking to the news, or which ones are the ones, organizing events and so forth. Yes.
I'm sorry. Oh, hi. I volunteer at a school down in Mecca, and I wonder how ICE has been kept away.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have that information?
Well, I know that this Coachella Valley School District, which would cover Mecca, took a stance very early on during this presidency that they did not plan to allow access to their schools or to their students. And schools, clinics, any place that has a private space does have the right, and we highly recommend that they post, signage and develop policies and train all their staff that we don't let strangers in, including immigration enforcement agents. And, the kids should remain safe when they're with us and so forth. I can say also my mom works as a special ed para-professional, but in Iowa, which is a whole nother story. But what they do is they actually have a policy that their classroom doors are locked at all times, regardless of whether an immigration agent or someone else is on campus or not. So that's another sort of more neutral policy that could help. Yes, Claudia.
Are children going to school?
That's a good question. I think it would be better answered probably by the educators or the administrators in the school districts. I know as advocates, we learn about families that are not sending their kids either certain days, or some families have taken their kids out into homeschooling or looked at other options, but I couldn't say what those numbers look like. I'm not sure. I should mention, though, kind of responsive to the last question and related to your question, is that California, I haven't checked the status, but California did propose a bill earlier this year that would actually prohibit school districts from allowing consent to let immigration agents enter their premises. So that's another level of protection the state was trying to implement. I don't think it passed yet, but it's out there. Okay.
This is not the first time in the history of this country that we've seen people doing mean, ugly, hateful, unthinkable things to other people who don't look like them. What are your, I mean, we did it to the Native Americans, to the African Americans, to the Japanese, you know, on and on and on. What is it about mankind? And I should say womankind, because it's not just men. What is it about people? Are we basically good, or are we basically evil? I don't expect you to have an answer, but it just blows my mind that we do this over and over again to people who don't look like us. Drives me crazy.
Yeah. I'll call that a rhetorical question, but definitely not the expert on that one. Thank you.
Can I make one comment before we? So the question of what we can do as a church came up, and a number of us, including Julia and me and Revian, have contacted about 18 different organizations at this point, trying to see what we can do. The answer on some of them is, you know, are you a professional counselor? Are you a professional lawyer? Well, no. Many of them, it's going to be about food and money. Many of them, it becomes a question of who we are and what we want to do. So like responses to the front line, you know, are we still willing to put our bodies on the line and lock our arms? That may or may not be who we are. And so there's kind of some gut-wrenching questions we need to answer. A part of that is being determined in the Social Change Now class that Rev Ian has been leading. I encourage you to take the next session as well, because part of this is, there's about 10 different roles that we could take. And so part of it's an examination of who are we. Maybe we give money, maybe we give food, maybe we actually go and take direct action. Those are questions we're really trying to figure out, and it kind of gets to the core of who we are.
I know I'm supposed to stop, but I want to add one more thing. Building on what you just said, which I think is really informative and helpful, is that, you know, when it's not necessarily our community that's being the most impacted, we also need to be flexible and open to hearing those types of responses, because, you know, I may not be the best frontline volunteer for a certain effort, or it may be that the community doesn't want person like me there, but I could be helpful in a different way. And we have to be open-minded and accepting about that, because it's not always for us to decide. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So now it's time for our closing hymn. The words will appear up on the screens above you, and Jim Tong will lead us in This Land Is Your Land.
This is kind of bittersweet, this song. I've sung this since I was a little boy, and it's taken on, I don't know why, it's taken on new meaning after this presentation today. To the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. I rambled and followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts, and all around me a voice was singing. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I went walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw before me those golden valleys. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As the sun was shining and I was strolling, at the wheat fields waving and the dust clouds rolling, as the fog was lifted, a voice was saying, this land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me.
And now please join me in reading the words on the screen as Joni extinguishes our chalice this morning. Though we extinguish this flame, we won't stop in pursuing justice for those who cross our borders in search of a better life. We continue our commitment to build communities of true solidarity, deep compassion, and fierce, unrelenting love. Our closing words come from an excerpt from A Prayer for Immigrants, written by Jessica Vasquez Torres, who is an interfaith worker for justice. O source of justice, who is known by many names, let us not swerve from the path of righteousness that leads to just and equitable relationships. Open our eyes that we may see the immigrant and undocumented, whose labor enables and sustains our living. The farm worker, the hotel maid, the line clerk, the child care provider, the healthcare worker. Give us the courage to stand with those crossing our borders, escaping economic oppression and political persecution, seeking to support their families, aspiring to participate in the bounty of creation. Give us the strength to confront the prejudice and intolerance of those who are fearful, and respond by closing our borders to those who sojourn seeking life and opportunity. Give us the will to leave behind the safety of our sanctuaries and temples and claim our place in the movement to transform the creation, that our voice, our heart, our spirit will join the voice, heart, and spirit of all who demand to live with respect, justice, and peace. May it be so.